Hello, everyone. How are you doing? My name is John Michael Bailey, and this is the Wellspring Digital Chat Series where we go out, we find marketing experts through the power of dark arts. We are able to tap into all the data stores in their brain. We pluck out all the stuff that we need, and then we send them on their way, and they have no idea what happened. It's everybody's good, everybody's in great shape, and no one was harmed. So my intros are really getting quite weird. So anyway, today, if you've ever gone looking for answers to SEO questions, then you've heard of today's guest. Barry is one of the most prolific and knowledgeable SEO bloggers out there. He's the SEO that other SEOs go to for help. So if that tells you anything. So I'm really excited to have him on. And I know you good people will get some useful knowledge out of this as well. Barry, if you could, please go ahead and introduce yourself to these fine folks.
Thanks for having me. I'm Barry Schwartz, as it says on the screen. I'm not actually an SEO. I write about SEO. I've been writing about SEO for about 20 years. I love the topic of SEO. I speak about it. Of course, I have my own websites that we produce, but my company, we build software, a lot of web-based software. But I have a passion towards SEO, and you're right. Like a lot of SEOs do come to me for SEO advice.
And that's why I'm talking to you. So for today, I don't necessarily need you to be an SEO. I just want to tap into your SEO knowledge because it is vast, and I think this will be great. I like having digital marketing and SEO experts on for my own purely selfish reasons because I want to learn. I got SEO questions and I need answers as well. So, but today, Barry, you're in the hot seat, and we got some questions for you. So, you ready for this?
Always ready. Let's go ahead.
Right, let's do it. So, I want to start with a page experience update. I feel like this update has been in the making for some time now, and for me, page experience really started with Mobilegeddon and the mobile first indexing, or maybe earlier. This update really is about user experience, UX, correct? I mean, in your opinion, how much is user experience an SEO factor?
Right. So this actually started before the Mobilegeddon.
I figured.
So Mobilegeddon, I think, was 2015 or so. Google announced it, at least. Google in 2014 actually shocked the SEO world by saying they actually started to fully render the page and see the page as it is, as opposed to just looking at the source code of the page and picking out the source code. They would actually render it and say, oh, this piece of content's here, that piece of content is there, navigation's over here, ads are over there. And that was like, oh, wow, Google's actually able to now see where we lay things out on our pages.
Right.
And the old tricks of, CSS positioning for getting your text above the different areas to kind of trick Google to think that that content's more important than the other. Google's now like, oh, well, we know where the content is on the page, so you can't really trick us per se.
Right.
Not that people would necessarily trick, but it was something that was there. So I think Google really started this concept, at least, rendering the page and understanding what the page looks like in 2014. You saw it first with the mobile-friendly update, which we nicknamed Mobilegeddon, which was kind of ridiculous to call it a geddon because it really wasn't. It was really something that was not so significant. And yeah, page experience, UX, all that type, the page experience update, all that type of stuff. If you look at the page experience update, it really looks at a bunch of different things. It looks at, HTTPS, intrusive mobile interstitials. There's a site mobile-friendly, Mobilegeddon, like you said, not obviously for desktop purposes. But then it added this new layer of like core web vitals. So like LCP, FID, CLS. So yeah, I mean, I think it is a lot about the user experience, and it's hard for Google to say, there was lots of these page speed tools or user experience tools that measure user experience. And this page experience update kind of said, all right, these are the page experience factors that we're looking at. We may plug in new ones. We may remove old other ones as well. And they've done that over the years where they've actually removed one of the old page experience update factors. I forgot which one it was. Actually, it was safe browsing. Because it's like, that's not really an experience thing. If your site's hacked, it's an issue. But they have also remove, when they launched the desktop version of this, which they launched back in February, March of this year, obviously mobile friendly is not a factor for desktop pages.
Right.
So there's lots of different things here with that. And I think what we need to know, and whoever's listening, is that, while UX is super important, it's super important for your conversions. It's super important to make sure your users are happy. It's a very small, very, very, very lightweight ranking signal. Everything I've seen so far with all the past page experience updates before it was actually named page experience, from HTTPS to mobile interstitials to all those types of things around mobile friendliness, all those things really had a very lightweight impact on Google's rankings. And then when Google launched a page experience update for mobile, same thing, really, really lightweight signal for rankings. And then with a desktop update just a couple months ago, or a month ago, actually finished rolling out, that also had a very, very lightweight signal. So I think calling it get in or thinking it's a big SEO factor is a mistake. It is important for other reasons, and you should focus on user experience factors, mostly for the user, not for the search engine, which kind of makes funny. It's kind of funny. Do you think about it that way?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so in general, when you see Google announce updates that give you months and months to prepare for, those updates are generally very, very minimal updates. It's the ones that Google announces the same day or after the fact. Yeah, we released a core update. Oh, we released Panda. Those are the kind of things that really have a significant impact, the ones that Google doesn't pre-announce. So those are the things that you have to kind of think about.
Are they toying with us? Are they are they trying to make our lives more difficult? I'm just kidding.
Only your life, I think.
Yeah, only my life. Yeah, they're targeting me. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's much ado about nothing, sometimes with all of these types of announcements. But I mean, is it safe to say that do you think UX is going to grow in importance as a ranking factor, or is it really going to stay rather minor? Crystal ball.
So it depends. I mean, ultimately, Google wants them to rank the most relevant search result. Now, you could have the best user experience and not be relevant to the query.
Right.
So obviously, if somebody's searching for my company, Rusty Brick, there's nobody else who's trying to compete with the term Rusty Brick. So even if my website has the worst user experience in the world, Google's still going to rank it because it's the most relevant. If you're in a position where you are competing for a very competitive keyword and the first 5 results all have everything equal in terms of all other factors, links, content, everything, it could be a tiebreaker. It could be like, all right, this site has a little better, it's a little faster, it's a little better user experience. But again, I would probably focus more on the content and what you can do that's different from your competitors. Obviously, user experience is important, but I don't think the SEOs need to focus so much on the user experience side. I think it's more of you have a UX person focus on that and think about what's best for the user and not really worry too much about what Google thinks is best for the user.
So I'm not an SEO. I'm a content guy, so I love that answer. But I do see the value, and I've learned a ton since I've been working at Wellspring about technical SEO. We work with a lot of marketing directors, CMOs, and the like, and I wonder, how much should technical SEO inform a typical marketing plan for a small business? Is it something that they need to, wring their hands about, or is it maybe they should have a general knowledge of, in your opinion?
So I think it depends on the type of website. I think a smaller website with like maybe a WordPress blog, WordPress sites don't really have many technical SEO issues unless you hack it to death and it's a massive site. I think larger sites generally tend to have to worry more about technical SEO. Older sites with legacy content tend to have to worry more about technical SEO issues because they have old URLs, duplicate content issues, canonicals, hreflang, all these types of things, which are very, very important for a lot of sites. But if you have like, I don't know, a 5-page, 20-page, even a 100-page website, generally technical SEO is not that important. I would focus more on the content side, making sure you have a lot of content that's useful for your users. But when it comes to doing SEO for larger sites, 1,000 pages plus, you probably have to start looking at the technical SEO areas where maybe there's URLs that are kind of generating weird characters on them, or you need to implement some, certain types of markup or stuff like that, or maybe schema, structured data. Those require some technical SEO knowledge. And then obviously you have the sites that have major technical debt, which are producing unlimited URL parameters and filters and faceted navigation and pagination, language issues, translation, those kind of things really kind of need to be dealt with when it comes to technical SEO. And then the really, really, really massive sites like billions of pages really kind of have to worry about what's called crawl budget. And like, is Google crawling all my pages? Are they crawling the important pages? Are they crawling it fast enough? Do I have to do anything to improve that crawl budget? But that's really like high level stuff that isn't really that complicated, but it's something that you should really focus on.
So content is still sort of key in your opinion in terms of the small businesses, and obviously, you know, making content that that solves problems and helps the potential clients. I think in my opinion, you know, I think sometimes marketing directors get a little bit too much knowledge about what technical SEO is, and they sort of go down these rabbit holes of getting fixated on, you know, one issue or another issue. And I don't know if you agree with that, but it seems like a struggle.
I do. I mean, I don't think it's just SEO. I think it's people get fixated with what they think is, oh, this is a problem for me, I need to solve it. It could be a health issue, and you know, they're loading up on vitamin D when they probably didn't even take a blood test because, you know, there's a report that says to reduce your chances of getting sick, you need a lot of vitamin D. So they load up on it, and then it makes them toxic in other ways or whatever it might be. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I think people in general, when they think they know something about something and they see, oh, this other site had this issue and they told me that this fixed it. You see that all the time with SEOs and site owners where they're like, well, this person told me this, so we need to focus on that. And sometimes it's like, well, you're focusing on the wrong thing. It might be the case, but you really need some really experienced SEO to take a look at your website and say, all right, do an audit, I guess, in some sense, and say, these are the big issues. This is the order you should tackle them in. If you have all the resources in the world, then maybe work on these other things that are maybe less important, because not everything is equal.
Seems like they need a worry budget.
Yeah.
So you do these search news buzz videos, which are very helpful, and you talked about comments from Danny Sullivan addressing statements made by former presidential candidate Andrew Yang and Ramesh Srinivasa. I'm oversimplifying here, but it was basically correcting those two about the idea that Google keeps users within a search bubble. I think their statements are often made by many, and you know, especially in marketing. Can you talk a little bit about what this was about, and you know, is my assumption correct that many marketers are sort of or many people have this notion of how Google works?
Right. All right. So first, Ramesh was basically talking to Andrew Yang on his, I guess, podcast about this kind of filter bubble or search bubble type of issue where he is misinformed in that Google has personalization when it comes to search, where if you only care about topic X or you're very into topic X, Google will just basically, you know, show you that information over and over again and not show you the reality of what's really going on in the world, and basically misinform you over and over again. That's a very simplistic view of it. Kind of this, what if you do a search for what is a filter bubble, you'll probably read about this, and it's more common in like Facebook and social networks than it is with you know, search. And the truth is, Google tried to do a lot of personalization back in like 2010, even before that, and Google scaled that back. They're like, it's not working. It's not making search more relevant because people are in their filter bubbles, and that's not something that we as a search company want to give people. We want to give people the most relevant information to their query and the most factual information to their query. Not that Google knows what fact is, but in general, we want to show what the consensus is on a specific topic. So Danny Sullivan said, hey, this is not how search works. We don't use personalization in that way. The most personalization we go for is really twofold. One is localization, which some might confuse as personalization. Localization is basically, if I'm searching for pizza shops, Google's going to show, hey, I'm in New York City with my phone. I want a pizza shop that's around the corner. It's knowing where you are and showing you personalized results like that. But if somebody's standing right next to you and doing the same search for pizza shops, they'll probably get exactly the same information. So it's not really personalized, it's more localized. And the second thing is previous search query, immediate previous search query. So if you search for, I don't know, football games, and then you search for Jaguar right after that, Google's then going to go ahead and be like, all right, you just search for football. We'll probably show you the football team, the Jaguar football team, as opposed to showing you the animal or the car. And that if you do the search for that tomorrow, Google might not say, you know what, we'll probably just show you what we normally show people because you didn't immediately search for football the day before. So it's kind of that level of personalization, and it's not this filter bubble. And that's a shame because a lot of people, even like the smartest people out there, and I don't necessarily blame them. They heard it once back in 2010 that this is how it works. They heard about the filter bubble, and they go on these, widely, watched and consumed podcasts that talk about these things, and they misinform the public. And then you hear people, people who are leading us, like the Senate and Congress, talking in, with people from Google on these panels, and Google's like, well, it doesn't work that way, and they're like, no, it does, and like, no, it doesn't work that way, and they think they're lying because they just don't understand how search works, and that's kind of like upsets me because if I know how search works, and I see our senators and Congress people making law based on these issues with search, and I'm like, no, you got it wrong. I'm like, what else do they get wrong? Like, I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about movies. I don't know anything about production. I don't know anything about medical stuff. I know about a lot of things, internet policies. And why are these senators and who got it wrong with search, they're probably getting it wrong about everything. So I don't know what to, it's kind of upsetting on that level.
Well, and Andrew Yang is supposed to be, a very sort of techno thinking, forward thinking guy, and so even him getting it wrong is kind of concerning, because the neophytes in Congress are getting it way wrong. I mean, you could see it in the hearings. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and that's the scary part again. I mean, and some of them are like, if you tell them they're wrong, you never tell, like these guys, you can't tell them they're wrong. I mean, they get dismissive, they get annoyed, they get defensive, and then go ahead and lay it on even more. They'll say, oh, you think I'm wrong? I'm going to tell you that I'm right. If I just keep saying this to everybody and telling them and misinforming.
Double down on being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're very busy people, and they hear snippets and they piece those pieces together and they make up their own truth. And I'm just focused in SEO and search, and I can say I know search because that's my focus. I don't think anybody can be an expert on everything, because there's not enough time in the day, and some people just have to rely on information they're being told. So I don't really blame Andrew Yang or Ramesh, but like he was like defensive, Ramesh, when Danny Sullivan said, you're wrong. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a life lesson. People need to be okay with being told that they're wrong and to think of it as growth as opposed to think of it as offensive. But that's a topic for a completely different type of podcast. So, So, I don't really get obsessed about the so-called search bubble. I have a pretty decent understanding of how Google works. But I do wonder, Google just rolled out these vehicle ads that they're now showing in the SERPs, and more, as users, we almost expect that Google will show you everything you need right in the search results page, so you don't have to click. It's great for the user, but I have concerns. I mean, we become more and more hooked on Google with each update like this, and I wonder, and maybe I'm reaching here, but is Google a monopoly? Or maybe a fairer question is Google becoming too big to fail? I know there's a lot in there.
Yeah, so that's a tough question. I mean, Google, if you look at your search, analytics, you see Google has 90% of pretty much every traffic that's sent to any website if you filter by Google versus Bing versus DuckDuckGo. So yeah, Google has a huge market share. Right. Is that meaning the monopoly? Is that how it works? I'm not a politician. I don't know how this monopoly stuff works. I don't think like in general it's I think in general it's very, very easy to switch search engines. It's very easy from go to google.com to bing.com to duckduckgo.com. If somebody's unhappy with the search results, it's very easy for them to switch. Now, of course, you could say, well, Google now has Chrome, they have the Chrome OS, they have Android. They didn't have that when they went ahead and took over market share from Alta Vista and Bing and previously MSN, Yahoo, and so forth. Microsoft owned the PC. They could have easily dominated with Internet Explorer back then and so forth, and their OS. So I don't know. I think there is something around antitrust and making it harder for people to switch search engines. At the same time, I think it's fairly easy to switch a search engine. You just go to your browser and you just type in whatever search engine you want. But, like you said, I mean, Google's venturing into many, many verticals. You saw it with dictionary results in the early days to weather results, like what's the weather, math, TV listings, movie reviews, shopping, and then you have facts and feature snippets. So like what's next? Like Google's gonna start selling homes and real estate listings and so forth.
Yeah.
And the answer is okay, maybe. And SEOs are really good at adapting to that, meaning, hey, this is coming up in the search results. It's an ad, it's an organic listing, there's schema, there's structured data. What do I need to make sure my client shows up there? And I think SEOs will adapt to that. I've seen many, back in the dictionary sites when Google said, all right, we're going to license dictionary information. I mean, it's licensable information. They could get that information and show it anywhere. Google license, movie reviews and musical lyrics. It's upsetting for the sites that are building their business on licensing that content themselves and trying to rank well on Google. But what's to stop Google from licensing that information? Do something that's unique, like maybe these podcasts or these interviews that Google can't replicate themselves very easily by licensing that information for whatever money it costs. You have to have something that's somewhat unique. So to be upset that, and you've seen this stuff with Rand Fishkin's study around 0 clicks, I always wanted him to break out those 0 clicks by tell us, if somebody's searching for how tall is Obama or how old is Trump, obviously they're getting the data right there. It shows that the information, and they're not going to click because they get the information. But if they're doing more of like a commercial query, I want to buy something, or I, want to deep dive into some type of project or something and figure out how to do that, I'm sure that has a way higher click-through rate than somebody searching for what is the weather today. You don't expect somebody to so I think when it comes to content and building content, you have to think about what could I do that it's kind of above and beyond what Google could replicate easily. So that's the concern. Google has really recently ventured into doing things around buyer guides, which are horrible. I don't know if you've seen that. I posted an example of a buyer guide that Google kind of built using some AI. The results are pretty bad. And that's kind of concerning when Google's now using AI and machine learning to kind of build their own types of segments of what would be like product reviews data. But we'll see where that goes. Google has tried things like this and backed off of it. But we'll see. I mean, there is a concern there, but the good thing is SEOs tend to adapt to these situations and content writers tend to adapt to these situations.
So just to kind of piggyback on that, putting on your software hat, when I talk to people about, building an app or developing some sort of piece of software, there's always this concern that, well, Google might just, develop it themselves and that puts us out of business. Is that sort of still in line with your idea of being unique, or is that an inherent risk, or is that even a fair question of me to ask you?
No, it is. I mean, we build a lot of startup programs for a lot of companies. So I'll tell you one. One was a startup that wanted to go ahead and right when COVID launched or was an issue, they wanted to say which restaurants require which places, restaurants, movie theater, whatever it might be, require certain regulations. Do they have a great protocol for cleaning, masking? Do they require masks? Do they require whatever it might be? And I'm like, I don't think we should launch this. I think Google could easily add this to Google business profiles and then have the businesses add the data, and Google could quickly show that in Google local results. We launched it. The client was adamant about that, and the client owes me a fortune of money because he never ended up finished paying me. So he paid me a lot, and then when it came to the final payment, he said, see you later. And that's what happens with startups building software. So sadly, I took a hit with that, but
I mean, is that fair though? I don't know. I don't want to beat up on Google, and I don't want to put you in the hot seat, but it does seem that it's from the whole standpoint of innovation and a level playing field, it's kind of tough to compete against something like Google.
It is, but again, there's ways to do it. I mean, I mean, Google's not competing with, well, they are now. Is Google competing with me about writing SEO news? And they do. They have the developer areas. They're doing lots of YouTube videos, lots of interaction on social. But there's ways to do it better. I mean, I have a huge audience myself, and Google's encroaching, of course. But I don't know. Could Google take over everything in the world? Potentially. Will government allow it? No. I mean,
Yeah.
so they might have to be broken up over time, but I don't know. I'm not into the politics side. I just say,
Yeah.
when it comes to ranking content, you have to do something that's better than the next, or else Google's not going to rank it. And if you
Right.
can do it better than anybody else, I mean, the goal what I always tell people is build something that Google's embarrassed not to rank well. So if an engineer saw a query and says, why is this site not ranking for it, that it should be ranking for it, Google will adapt their algorithms to rank it. Will Google ever decide to replace you by building their own version of it? Potentially. And then you're out of luck. I mean, they did it with Yelp. They did it with, all those local search engines.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. I mean,
It's fun
I
to
don't know.
speculate, and I like to create triggers for conspiracy theorists. But all right,
It's not.
so
It's not a conspiracy. It's
yeah,
true, and Google does this. So you got to keep adapting.
yeah,
That's the trick. So
yeah. No, I like what you said about create something that Google would be upset about not listing in their SERP. So I think that's a great way to to kind of think of uh, you know think of ways to stay creative and nimble and competitive. So I want to switch gears and I want to talk about social media. Speaking of Google. Building things and trying things. They've tried and failed at social media with Google Plus, and I think there was something before, a precursor to that. I don't remember what it was called, but I'm not going to say that social media is dying, but it seems to be losing its luster in terms of people wanting to get on the social media bandwagon. So, do you think Google will try their hat at social media again, or did they learn their lesson with Google Plus? A lot of
right.
speculation.
Right. So one is I don't know. I mean, I think social media is here. The question is it's adapting. People like the latest stuff.
Mm,
So I mean, it was MySpace in the old days, Facebook, then I guess Instagram, TikTok. I mean, TikTok's where it's at. I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. The people are now moving to more privacy focused stuff, title or whatever. So there's a lot of that, and there's always something new constantly. And the question is, what's going to
sure.
be the next thing? I'm a big Twitter user because I'm a content person.
Right.
I don't really show pictures of myself. I'm not really that great to look at, so I'm not on Instagram so much. But Google has tried it. You think Google had Orca, Google Wave, I think. Google
Wave. That's the one I
Buzz,
was thinking of. Yeah.
Buzz, and then Google Plus, and then Google converted that when they decommissioned it to Google Current, I think, which they use internally, I think, for the most part, and for Google Suite app users or whatever.
Right.
So that's still there. Also, if you think about it, Google Hangouts, Google Meet, YouTube, those are all forms of social networks as well, and that's still live and working very well. So is Google going to compete in social in the future? I think they currently are. If you look at those types of brands that they have, the big question for me as a search guy is, will Google use social factors in search? And I don't think so. They tried it. Microsoft, Bing tried it as well with Facebook partnership. It didn't work. So I don't know. I don't know if Google's going to build another social network as a Facebook competitor.
Right.
Kind of Facebook's kind of on the decline a little bit. Maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is do they even need to go after something like Facebook anymore? It doesn't seem like they do.
No, I think they're looking at like verticals of it. They also have like, I don't know, lots of messenger apps. They've had so many different messenger apps over the years.
Yeah.
So they try a lot of things. If you look at the Google like graveyard or products that they
Yeah.
actually decommissioned over the years, things that were really popular, they still love to try new things and fail. They can afford to fail more than anybody else. So we'll see. Who knows? I'm not sure if they'll ever come up with another Facebook version, but maybe something new. They did Cameos. Cameos is going away. I don't know if you remember that, where you could like upload, videos like that. So I don't know. We'll see. They're really good at search. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would love to see them focus. Obviously they're going to keep focusing on making their search product, the best it can possibly be. So, that's an interesting take on it. It's going to be curious to see. It's always fun to see what comes down next, what Google's working on and what's going to stick and what's not. And it's never a dull moment, that's for sure. So, All right. Well, Barry, I really appreciate you being on here. I think there's a lot in here for people to chew on, and you know, I think we'll just have to keep our eyes on Google, and but you know, I think the lesson that I take from this is stay relevant, stay unique, and develop products and services and content that your clients are gonna really want.
Totally. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great one.